Hello. So this is going to be a brief overview of Metropolitan School District of Washington Township, or as I will be referring to it throughout this presentation, MSDWT, specifically Northview Middle School, which is where I am currently doing my practicum for the school counseling program. It is also where I work as an instructional assistant in the 8th grade resource classroom. So just a few facts. Northview is one of 3 middle schools. There are 12 schools total, 7 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 1 high school, a preschool, and a community vocational center. They offer things like shop class and auto mechanics, cosmetology, culinary, all sorts of different things. It's a really great resource for our community. And students that are enrolled in the high school are able to do that for essentially free, with the exception of some materials that they need. We have more than 50 nationalities in our school district. We have a lot of refugees, actually, which I think is pretty interesting, mostly from Burma. So we have a lot of different nationalities represented throughout our schools. We actually are adding 2 more elementary schools, I think, at the beginning of the 2018-2019 school year. So that will add 2 more schools on to our 12 that we already have. They're both going to be elementary schools. I don't know if I said that. We have high attendance rate, really effective teachers, which is awesome. And it's a very large district, but I think it's pretty great as far as what I've seen as a employee as well as in my practicum. So Washington Township is a part of Marion County, which is in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's a really big area, and it's represented by a lot of different nationalities. This is a breakdown of some of the races in Marion County. This was from 2016. As you can see, predominantly a Caucasian area, but we also have a lot of diversity. And interestingly enough, as you'll see on some of my upcoming slides, the population of these schools does not necessarily reflect an equivalence with what would be expected for the area based on these statistics that we're looking at right now. So we'll move on to that. So here we have just a few little breakdowns of socioeconomic status for the area, education levels, which I was actually surprised to see that so few people had a bachelor's degree or higher. It's an interesting area. We have a lot of very wealthy individuals in this area, as well as a lot of very impoverished areas in Washington Township. So it's interesting to me to see this breakdown. I don't think I've ever looked at it before this project, so it's interesting for me to see how it actually shakes out. As you can see here, the population, let's see if that will go away. The population is mostly in public schools, which is great. It's a good good representation of how the community views MSDWT. It's well respected. It's actually the only, I believe, the only all IB International Baccalaureate school district in the state of Indiana. But we also have a high poverty level, especially for those who are under the age of 18, which would be our students. So this is the ethnicity breakdown of the school district itself. Like I said when we were on the slide for Marion County, the breakdown of the school district does not reflect or represent the population of Marion County. And of course, some of Marion County is in other school districts, so that might contribute to it. But for the most part, Washington Township is all Marion County. Marion County is not all of Washington Township, however. As you can see, majority is Black African American. We have a tiny little sliver here of American Indian. There's not a very big Native population in our area. White is this green, blue or purple is Hispanic, yellow is Asian. I think that would probably be mostly those refugees that I mentioned earlier. We do have a good bit of multiracial individuals as well. I'm not sure, actually there's another little blue here. I'm not sure if that's combined in here with the Native American, American Indian, or if there's two separate ones in there. It's such a small percentage, however, that I personally don't think I know any students who are Pacific Islander, Native Hawaiian, or American Indian at my school. But apparently they are represented in our district. This next graph over here is free and reduced lunches in our district. As you can see, about half of the district receives free lunches. The other half is almost all paid meals, but there is a little sliver of reduced meals. And when we get to the slide specific to Northview Middle School, you'll see how that shifts a little bit. And this is, again, out of almost 1,200 students. Or sorry, 12,000. So this is, oh, there we go. This is just a more up-close look at that ethnicity breakdown for the entire school district of Washington Township. So these are the Northview Middle School demographics. You can see that they vary a little from the whole school district demographics. We have far more than half of our students who are getting free meals. The number of reduced meals looks about the same, but overall the kids who are paying for meals is a much smaller portion than the entire district. We also have another little breakdown of nationality. Hispanic is far more represented in this graph than the whole district, as well as Asian being slightly more, but and white being smaller. So we'll move on from there. This is the boundaries map. The blue is going to be Northview Middle School's boundary. I think this is super strange, just the way it's broken down for our district. The brown and yellow are the two other middle schools. The red dots represent students that go to Northview Middle School when this map was submitted, which I think it's a couple years old, but it's still the same boundary map. This is the breakdown of the population from the 2010 census of Washington Township with both males and females, and then their age ranges. And I just want to point you to 10 to 14, which would be approximately the age of the students in Northview Middle School. You can notice that the males are slightly more represented than the females, and our population at the school represents that as well. This is going to show you the population by age breakdown. Pink is female, blue is male. It shows you approximately how many students are of that age. The males are far more present at our school than females are. I'm not really sure what has made that happen, but that's just the way our breakdown looks at this point. This is a brief summary of students passing their I-STEP tests. We administer I-STEP in the spring, and it's by academic subject. So this is kind of a breakdown of where our students scored, and this is for Northview, not for the district. This is for Northview Middle School. This is the state performance of students in the classroom. They're passing the standardized test at the end of the year. Unfortunately, it's not looking too hot, but we're working on that. We'll see how it goes from here. This is a breakdown of students in special education and the gifted and talented program. And this is for the entire district versus just the school. I couldn't find any information just for the school. So it looks like we have a fair number of students both in special education as well as gifted and talented. I'd like to see a little bit more represented in gifted and talented. Because we are an IB program, I feel like we should be doing more for the students who are receiving those IB diplomas. So basically, my breakdown of all this information, I feel like we are a very diverse population. It's interesting to me kind of how it's broken down race-wise, and socioeconomic status I think is really interesting as well. The implications to me are that we have to work with a lot with the number of kids who probably come from homes that can't afford everything that most schools would expect their students to afford. I know I have a lot of teacher friends who go out of their way to provide for their students in ways that I don't recall other teachers doing when I was in school, and things might have changed since then, but this is just my interpretation. Grades are not where I'd like to see them. I don't know too much about what grades are supposed to, or what averages are supposed to look like, because I'm not from an education background. So it was a little shocking to me to see that less than half in some of the courses, less than half of the students were passing those. Pardon me. But I think there's a lot of growth happening in the district. We've recently changed our standards statewide, and so it's been a few years of change, and so we're trying to catch up with that. It'll be interesting to see in the next few years once we add those new middle schools, and we've also gotten a referendum passed that is improving every single one of the schools in the township. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple years once that money actually becomes available to the district to be used. So that is pretty much my presentation, wrapping it up with just a note that the school district is growing and expanding, and so is the middle school, and I think it's going good places. Thanks.